A very good evening to you and welcome to your primetime news coming to you live from the Newsfirst Center here in Colombo. And I'm Sandro Ferdinando.
A very good evening to you. I'm Hizrina Hizbi. Let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Parliament could be dissolved tonight, say sources from the government. Former Indian President Abdul Kalam commends President Sirisena's efforts to battle the drug menace. News First, Sirisena and Shakti take the initiative to turn Sri Lanka into a drug-free nation. Opposition alleges that the COPE report against the governor of the central bank has been delayed.
Sati dekak. I think the මාසයකට වඩා කාලයක් ගත වෙලා තියෙනවා.
ලබන මාසයේ 7 වෙනිදා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ රැස් වුණාම වාර්තා ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමට අපි උපදෙස් දෙන්න.
Emirates A380 makes an emergency landing in Sri Lanka.
According to sources from the government, Parliament could be dissolved at midnight tonight. When inquired by News First, the head of the government press, Gamini Fonseca, stated that the Gazette, with regard to the dissolving of Parliament, has been received for printing.
The President's Media Division today denied media reports alleging that a meeting between President Maithripala Sirisena and former President Mahinda Rajapaksa took place at the Speaker's residence last night. Minister of Housing and Samurdhi Sajid Premadasa also denied allegations that a meeting between the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and President Maithripala Sirisena took place yesterday, assuring his supporters not to lose faith in the President.
The minister made this statement at an event held to distribute financial aid to the Siambala Agrarian Society in Thisamarama. I have been getting continuous phone calls since this morning asking me whether the President and the former President met with each other and what they spoke about. We trust President Maithripala Sirisena. We know that he's a person who does not forget the past. If he was a person who did, he would not have risen to become the President of the country from the smallest to the lowest level. I would like to tell all of those who worked towards ensuring President Maithripala Sirisena's victory not to abandon your trust in the current President under any circumstance. He will never betray the citizens of our country.
මොනම හේතුවකටවත් වර්තමාන ජනාධිපතිතුමාව අවිශ්වාස කරන්නට එපා. එතුමා රටේ පුරවැසියන් කිසිසේත්ම පාවා දෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Also in local news tonight, former Indian President Dr. Abdul Kalam called on President Maithripala Sirisena today. During the meeting, the President had informed Dr. Kalam that a national program is afoot to free the country from the drug menace.
The former Indian President met with President Maithripala Sirisena this morning at the President's office. The former Indian President had commended President Sirisena's programs in domestic food production, drug eradication and environmental conservation. The Presidential Media Unit, releasing a statement, stated that topics of bilateral importance were discussed during the meeting. The former Indian President and the Sri Lankan President had also spoken about the cooperation of India and Sri Lanka with regard to science and technology. Dr. Abdul Kalam presented 2 books penned by him to President Maithripala Sirisena, while President Sirisena too presented the former Indian President with a souvenir.
Former Indian President Dr. Abdul Kalam believes that in 10 years the world must move towards clean energy cars. The former Indian President made this statement speaking to students from schools and universities at the BMSCH in Colombo.
Minister of Power and Energy Patali Champika Ranawaka, Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka YK Singha, school students, principals and teachers were present for the event organized by the Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority and the Ministry of Power and Energy.
One of the most polluted thing in the world is automobiles and trucks because they use diesel and petrol. Every liter you burn, you generate 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide. So we should move as you have planned now in Sri Lanka. In India also we are thinking of That is, you should go for electric powered car or biofuel car or solar powered car. In another 10 years time, we should move from a clean powered cars.
A memento was also presented by students to the former Indian president.
Thank you, sirs. Meanwhile, the inaugural session of the International Symposium on Energy Challenges in the Knowledge Economy was held in Colombo today. The symposium is organized for Centre for Sustainability, University of the Sri Jawardhanapura and the Ministry of Power and Energy. Newsfirst was the electronic media partner for the event.
Through these moves, Sri Lanka can...
Former President of India, Dr. Abdul Kalam, graced the occasion as the chief guest and keynote speaker. Minister of Power and Energy, Patili Champika Ranaveka, and other political representatives were present for the symposium.
The world consumes more than 91 million barrels of petroleum per day. Collectively as the world, we are not only paying for the coal of fuel, but also paying for the continuous environment degradation. The solution to this problem is achieving energy independence by framing an integrated policy action for climate change mitigation in energy. It is possible for India with core competence in multiple fields to work with many countries in a joint venture mode for bringing together multiple core competence of partnering nations.
They have recently formulated the cabinet-approved Sri Lanka Energy Sector Development Plan for a knowledge-based economy 2015 to 2025. The plan envisages a mid-term target of Sri Lanka becoming self-sufficient in energy and long-term target of meeting 100% of our energy needs through renewables. Out of 143 countries, Sri Lanka ranked 105th position in the global Innovative Index, whereas we stand at 101 for the Knowledge Economy Index. This shows how much we are lagging behind compared to the rest of the world.
Newsfirst, Sirasa and Shakti took the initiative today in making Sri Lanka a drug-free country. Beg your pardon, a drug-free country. Now the anti-drug drive will cover 72 cities, towns and villages across the country to raise awareness about protecting our most valuable human resource in this country, our youth.
The National Anti-Drug Drive program, which is organized under the theme Drugs Have No Place in Me, My Home and My Country, will cover 72 locations across the island. The first phase of the National Anti-Drug Drive is launched in all 5 districts of the Northern Province, Jaffna, Mullaitivu, Kilinochchi, Mena and Vaunia. The National Anti-Drug Drive island-wide door-to-door campaign was carried out with the participation of officers from the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board. Local authorities and police officers too are taking part in this campaign against drugs.
Today, the National Anti-Drug Drive went door-to-door to Kotadi and Kurunagara areas in Jaffna. We raised awareness among the public on the harmful effect from drugs. Tomorrow we will be visiting Kites and Punkudutev Islands and continue this door-to-door campaign.
While a special program to rehabilitate those who suffer serious drug-related addiction is being carried out, a sticker will be pasted on residents that say no to drugs. We
visited several locations in Vaunia today. We were extended a warm welcome. We informed them of the use of drugs.
Meanwhile, a special workshop was also organized in order to take measures to eradicate the drug menace. The programs are open to students, teachers and everyone from all communities in society. The National Anti-Drug Drive, which commenced today, is aimed at directing the human resources of the country to a positive direction and build a youth generation on that platform. The anti-drug drive will also take place in the central and southern province. To Tomorrow, the National Anti-Drug Drive will also take place in Kites, Punkudithivu, Sivapuram, Kattekadu, Ambalpuram, Vaunikulam, Selvapuram, Chettikulam, Tuduvake, Pesalai and Thalemanar areas.
Say no to drugs. National program to raise awareness to stop the rapid spread of drugs across the country.
The anti-drug drive will reach the following cities tomorrow: Jaffna District, Kites, Punkudithivu; Kilinoch District, Sivapuram, Kattekadu; Mullaitivu District, Ambalipuram, Vaunikulam, Selvapuram; Vaunia District, Chettikulam, Tuduvake; Mana District, Pesalai, Thalemanar.
Say no to drugs. A social responsibility undertaken by Sirasa, Shakti and Newsfirst and the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board.
The active participation of responsible institutions is mandatory in order to put a complete stop to the drug menace. However, Commissioner General of Prisons Rohana Pushpakumara says that a majority of inmates in prisons represented the bottom tier of this illegal trade. If this is the case, have the real drug peddlers not been nabbed by the law? Tonight, News First focuses on this aspect of this illegal trade.
The grassroots level of the drug trade are languishing in prisons. I believe that the top drug peddlers are still at large. The bottom tier who supported their businesses are the ones who are imprisoned.
The statement made by the Commissioner General of Prisons was aired on News First on a previous occasion. According to the Commissioner General of Prisons, if those imprisoned are the grassroots of the trade, how is it that the real peddlers are remaining at large and untouched?
When operating in the country, the person who uses drugs is always caught. The drug peddler and the businessman involved are never arrested. The user and the seller are arrested. However, the question as to who is behind the trade is never raised. It's all about the money. Take a look at the cases in Sri Lanka. 95% of the cases are not complete. It just stops with 1 or 2 persons. That is how it is in Sri Lanka. The process does not go beyond it. They arrest a person and take him in. They only ask from where he got the drugs. They get a name and then they go and arrest the seller. The process does not go beyond it. He is not questioned as to who are the others involved above him. When the process reaches that level, it is then that the trade will stop for good.
It should also be questioned as to whether the improper investigations of the police has attributed to the failure to apprehend the drug dealers. The start of the string of murders of women in Kotakethana dates back to 2012 when a mother and daughter were hacked to death in their house. It was reported that the murder was connected to drugs. Among the persons who were arrested for the crime was the former Godakavela Pradesh Sabha member L.H. Thanasiri and his brother known as Raju. Later, the former Politico was released from the case by the Attorney General. It was also reported that he once served as the coordinating secretary to a powerful minister. On the 19th of this month, News First questioned the police media spokesperson as to whether an investigation on connection between drugs and the murders was carried out.
No. There is an investigation with regard to drugs that is currently taking place. To be trialed on drugs, the individual must be arrested while possessing drugs.
According to the police, Kavindya and her mother were brutally murdered on the 31st of January 2012. When News First delved deep into this matter that we would draw your attention to on this news item. That is, 10 days before Kavindya and her mother were murdered, that is the 20th of January 2012, son of former Pradesh Sabha member Dharmasri, Milaka Sampath Lokugamheva, was arrested by the police. He was arrested for extortion and prison officials noted that heroin was discovered from a locker as he was a prison's guard.
Every officer has been given a locker to keep their belongings. After he was arrested, his locker was checked. We found drugs in his locker.
ලොකර් එක පරීක්ෂා කරලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට මේ කුඩු ඔහුගේ ලොකර් එකේ තිබිලා සොයාගෙන තියෙන්නේ ඔහු අස්සඩංගුවට ගැනීමත් සමග.
The arrest that took place 10 days prior to a gruesome double homicide, and it is also a question as to where the police acted to look into root of the drug trade connected to the murders. Drugs are also connected to this. Melaka Sampath Lokugamheva was arrested on the 20th of January 2012.
That was related to drugs.
A single investigation is not carried out on both incidents.
These are two separate incidents.
The murders reveal that drugs are involved here. Then an investigation has not been carried out as to from where did these drugs come from.
No, police investigations have taken place. Not all investigations can be successful.
It was said that Raju placed the drugs or a parcel that was sent through Kavindia was discovered.
There are certain evidence. When the case is taken up, the evidence will be produced.
If an investigation was carried out on Mihilaka, why isn't this case given attention? If it was done, something bigger would have been exposed.
We can make statements. Everything needs to be done within the scope of the law.
Mihilaka was arrested with drugs. Have no investigations been launched into this?
An investigation has been carried out, but in some cases we cannot move forward.
In order to gather more information, Newsfirst gave prior notice to arrested and later released former Godekwala Pradesh Sabha member L.H. Dharmasri that we would contact him. However, attempts to contact him over the past 2 days proved futile.
Meanwhile, a student from a school in Halyagota has been admitted to the hospital after consuming a toffee laced with an intoxicant. According to our correspondent, the toffee was given to him by a fellow grade 11 student.
The student claimed that he did not know what was in the toffee and had no knowledge of its contents prior to consuming it. He had lost consciousness and was then admitted to the Avisawala hospital. During the interval, I had my food and then washed my hands. Then a senior student gave me a toffee. Soon after consuming the toffee, I felt dizzy. Then I gave that toffee to the teacher. She took me to the office. I fainted. I do not know what happened thereafter.
When I went to school, my son looked lifeless on the chair. He was surrounded by the teachers. We take care of him at home. This had taken place at school.
When the principal was questioned on the matter, he said that the use of drugs in his school had been taking place for some time. This is how they are. This has been taking place for some time. We cannot search all the students. This had been taking place for some time. They are giving little of these drugs to a few students. If this child did not faint today, we would have never known of this. The police have launched investigations to try and discern its origins and how it came to be in the possession of a grade 11 student.
The opposition alleges that the COPE subcommittee report on the governor of the central bank has been delayed.
The Speaker issued a directive to produce the COPE report to Parliament within 2 weeks. I believe that a month has passed. We would like to know the present status of this report. You issued a directive on the 20th of May 2015. Today is the 26th of June. You made this decision after much facts were presented over the matter. Your directive also has not been executed. The people of this country will have many doubts over avoiding the opportunity to expose the controversial treasury bond issue. We respectfully request you to issue an order to present the COPE report to this Parliament so that the faith placed by the people will be ensured. I wish to ask if you would intervene to obtain a verbal statement from the chairman of COPE to understand what sort of progress has been made in the investigations. We will not stop this. Chairman of COPE is an opposition MP. We have not stopped it. It is not the Speaker who should be questioned about this, but the opposition MP and the chair should be questioned about this. We have not prevented anything. A clear decision had been given as to whether financial fraud had taken place and whether a monetary loss was incurred. This has been vested with the Parliamentary Committee. It is not just 2 weeks, it has been over a month. What we ask is what happened to the court report and the investigation. We will instruct the chair of the committee to inform on this when Parliament convenes on the 7th.
Meanwhile, views were also expressed in Parliament today over the Colombo Port City project.
The 1.4 billion rupee Chinese port development project is the single largest port that we received to protect the means of income of the village folk and also create other means of employment. This took place under the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. This responsibility now lies with you. Those lands have been given to a full lease. According to the law of the country, that cannot be done. There are such shortcomings. These matters are being discussed. It has not been stopped. It will continue in the future. If a mistake has been made, it needs to be rectified. As a cabinet minister intervene in this matter, rather than using for petty political gains, I believe that the port development will take place.
Elections Commissioner Mahinda Deshapriya retired today but said he would continue to serve in his post till a new election commissioner was appointed. He visited the Department of Pensions today to obtain his retirement documents.
Responding to the questions raised by journalists at the Department of Pensions, Mahinda Deshapriya noted that he was officially retiring as Elections Commissioner.
Every government servant must retire. According to the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, until an Elections Commission is appointed, former Elections Commissioner must serve in that capacity. So I will continue to carry out my duties until the Commission is appointed.
Commission සභාවේ රාජකාරී ඉටු කරන්නට ඕනේ. ඉතින් කලින් කොමසාරිස්තුමා වගේ මාත් ඒ රාජකාරී ඉටු කරනවා කොමිෂන් සභාව පත් කරනකම්.
The Elections Commissioner arrived at the Department of Pensions today to submit the relevant documents and obtain his new pensions card. According to what he said, he retired on the 6th of June and marked 60 years of service. I believe that a state employee must retire.
Mahinda Deshapriya joined the public service in 1982 and was attached to the Department of Elections since 1983. He was promoted to Deputy Elections Commissioner in 2006 and in 2011 Mahinda Deshapriya was promoted as the Elections Commissioner of the country.
Also in local news tonight, the Financial Crimes Investigation Division recorded a statement today from former Minister TBA Kanayaka. The interrogation centered around financial irregularities at the Central Cultural Fund and lasted for over 4 hours.
Police media spokesperson ASP Rohan Gunasekara stated that Ekanayaka arrived at the FCID at 9:30 this morning. The spokesperson said that the questioning went into details about the functioning of the Central Cultural Fund for the past 2 years. They concluded at around 1:30 this afternoon. We were questioned over donations made to temples. This government of good governance has questions into a CD we released which included places like Polonnaruwa, Anuradhapura and Sigiriya. It was released with the aim of developing Sri Lanka's image abroad in an attempt to attract more foreigners to the country. Funds were not presented by the minister alone. There is a board for that. The Prime Minister chairs that board, which includes a number of ministers.
Well, the Parliament will be dissolved with effect midnight tonight. General elections have been called for the 17th of August. The event organised to obtain 1 million signatures for the March 12th Declaration for Clean Politics reached Anuradhapura this evening. Meanwhile, the 12th March Declaration is a list of criteria put forward by a collective of civil society groups to encourage political parties to nominate better candidates for the forthcoming parliamentary polls.
The rally commenced from Colombo yesterday and concluded in Kurunegala. It kicked off once again from Kurunegala this morning.
If persons who are loyal to the nation and the people do not enter parliament, this country will never change. I believe that making the voters also aware is important. Question yourself, have you been fooled and deceived? If you get an answer, vote accordingly. Persons with no political knowledge and facing various charges enter politics. That needs to change. We request the political party leaders give us an election, nominate clean personalities for it.
The rally for the March 12th declaration then reached Warriapula. Signatures were obtained from citizens at the Warriapula bus stand.
We wish for a good government without any violence. The preferential vote system became a trend.
The rally then continued its journey and later arrived at the Galgamuwa bus halt where more signatures were obtained. The primary objective of the March 12th movement, comprising of 21 organizations including PAFRL, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Transparency International, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka and the Ceylon Teachers Union, is to create a better political culture in the country. The March 12th declaration was prepared as a preliminary measure to fulfill this objective and includes 8 fundamental criteria that should be taken into account by all political parties when they consider nominating candidates. The March 12 movement is to tour the country until the 4th of July to urge the public to cast their vote for the party who submits their nominations by following the criteria stated in the March 12 declaration for the upcoming parliamentary elections.
The panel discussion on the 20th Amendment, titled the 20A+, was held at the auditorium of the Kadiragama Institute last evening. The following views were expressed at the conference.
If this parliament does not change the electoral system, we can never change. My feeling, and I believe most of us have that view, that the next parliament, no party will have a majority. So if there is no majority, there is conflict. And if there is conflict, you cannot pass bills easily. So this parliament, His Excellency the President, we are 127 members of the UP SLFP, with His Excellency the President, the United National Party, and progressive parties like the TNA, supported His Excellency in coming to power. So I'm sure it's very unfortunate that all of us who work towards bringing my President Maithripala Sirisena into power now are taking different views and are looking at our pound of flesh. Most parties are looking which system is beneficial to us to get the most amount of members into parliament. You look at the proposed reform. In my opinion, the system that we have at present is the most democratic system. The proportional representation system, including the preferential voting. The people get the right to choose who it is who will be represented in parliament. There will always be abuses of the system, and we do have abuses. And if you are talking of violence, one of the ways to combat it is to have women representation, and I think the level of violence will reduce by half. One of the reasons why women are not in politics is because of the level of violence. Since it is envisaged that the new parliament will actually draft a new constitution for the country, because during the 19th Amendment debate we must have listened. The government repeatedly said this goes only halfway, it's even going to further compromise, but we'll do this now. We will have a new constitution in the next parliament.
Now, Minister Rauf Hakim has accused the former president of being hungry for power. He says after the 19th constitutional amendment distributed some of the powers from the president to the prime minister's post, the former president has become interested in the country's second most powerful position. He made this statement at an event held in Puthlam.
When the present amendment to the constitution was not enacted, all the power was with the president. The prime minister was seen like a puppet. The post of the prime minister will have power in the new parliament that is to be formed because the powers of the president is curtailed. This is why the former president has an added interest to this post. This hunger for power is creating problems for us in other ways. If the former president comes into the party unexpectedly, then the victory that was achieved becomes one with no value. In addition, the government will have to go to the opposition if they need to get approval for an act when a minority government is in power.
The Emirates flight, which made a harrowing emergency landing this morning due to a technical fault, is currently being repaired at the Katunayake International Airport. However, all 510 passengers and 30 staff were reported to be safe and no injuries were reported.
Emirates flight A380, which was en route to Dubai from Sydney, Australia early this morning, had experienced a technical fault and made an emergency landing. 510 passengers and 30 staff were reported to be on the flight at the time. The manager in charge of the Katunayake airport said that following the emergency landing, all passengers on board the flight were taken to safety at a nearby hotel. According to the chief manager of the airport, most of the passengers were put on other flights to take them back to Sydney, Australia.
When
we informed of the technical error, the flight had completed 9 hours of flight time. The pilot of the aircraft informed us that smoke was reported in the cockpit. We declared a full-scale emergency at the time. We declared this emergency 9 hours into flight time and around 320 nautical miles at sea. We took a decision to land the flight at the Katunayake airport. The plane landed at the airport in 39 minutes and 49 seconds after the emergency was declared.
We have special operational procedures to be conducted when a flight has to do an emergency landing. We positioned our fire brigade units at the proper locations. They informed us that the flight was undergoing a technical error. Fortunately, the pilot was able to land the flight with no harm to the passengers and staff.
The Newsfirst Online Academy, which is aimed at promoting media awareness among the country's youth, has been receiving a massive response. That's reflected in the fact that we have received more than 1,000 registrations so far.
Those who have registered with Newsfirst Online Academy have been provided with an opportunity to use its tools. Subjects have been prepared in accordance with a syllabus that follows a series of lectures. Through these lectures, studying the material is made easier, and the question paper for the examination will also be published on the online academy. We are ready to continuously educate our applicants through this program. We intend to promote continuous learning opportunities for applicants of this program. And on Sports First tonight, Kaushal Silva and captain Angela Matthews scored 50-plus runs in order to see Sri Lanka to 304 for 9 at stumps on the second day of the second test against Pakistan with a first innings lead of 166 runs. Pakistan leg spinner Yasir Shah collected his second 5-wicket haul of the series to slow Sri Lanka's progress at the Pisar Oval, but valuable contribution from tailenders put the host in control.
Also in sports news tonight, the first event Korean ambassadors Kukkiwon Cup Taekwondo Championship commenced in Colombo today. The championships were organized by the Embassy of the Republic of Korea together with the Ministry of Tourism and Sports and the Ministry of Cultural Affairs.
Around 1,000 Taekwondo competitors from sports clubs and schools took part in the championships today. Representatives from the Sri Lanka Taekwondo Federation, the Embassy of the Republic of Korea, and others were present for the event this morning.
Our intention is to further consolidate the bilateral relationship between our two countries by promoting mutual respect and goodwill and friendship at grassroots level through cultural exchanges. So from now on, the Korean Embassy will continue to expand the cultural and people-to-people exchanges in the coming years.
Sri Lankaවත් Koreaවත් ඒ තියෙන සම්බන්ධතාවය ලං කරන්න.
We need to be thankful for the efforts that have been undertaken to bring closer the relationships that prevail between Sri Lanka and South Korea. South Korea has managed to transform itself to one of the most developed countries in the world. As Sri Lankans, we have learned a lot from the Korean nationals.
ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ අපි ශ්‍රී ලංකාව හැටියට අපිට ඒ කොරියානු ජාතිකයන්ගෙන් ඉගෙන ගන්න තියෙන ප්‍රමාණය අතිමහත්.
මේක ෆස්ට් ටයිම් තමයි කරනවා. මම හිතන්නේ පස්සේ මේ වගේ කාරු තංකා කුඩක් තෙක්කොන්දොත්තෝ
අවුලිෂේන වගේ කියනවා 1000 වගේ එවිලා ඉන්නවා දැන් මේ ප්ලේ එකක් තියෙනවා.
Prizes and certificates were awarded to the winners thereafter.
A concert titled Choirs in Harmony took place last evening in Colombo. Choirs from Bishop's College Colombo, Ladies College Colombo, Methodist College, St. Peter's College Colombo and St. Thomas's Preparatory School took part in the event. The choirs were accompanied by Virtuoso Niranjan De Silva at the keyboards, and all 5 choirs combined to perform with the Delanarol Brothers. Organised by the Cathedral of Christ, the Living Saviour, MTV and Legends FM were the electronic media sponsors for the event.
Well, with that, we wrap up the news for this hour. Do join us again tomorrow. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Sandru Ferdinando.
Thanks for tuning in. I am Hizrina Hizbi. Take care, good night and have a pleasant weekend ahead.